Hi everyone, and welcome to the Liverpool Connection podcast. I'm your host Daz. I've got James Pearce in today. The last time I talked to James, I had 160 pairs of trainers, and now I have 190. So that kind of tells you the last time James was on the show. So it's great to have you on, James, in a snowy Liverpool.
Good to see you again, Dad. Are you keeping well?
I am. I'm keeping warm. The missus has um, the heater on, blaring. Um, Big change from Ashley being, last week I was back home in Liverpool, and my sister, as we all know, like the heating and the food consumption is a mess for quite a lot of people, whether to put the heating on or have a nice hot meal. So I've actually come home to a very, very warm house. So it's nice to be home. I miss back home, but I got in the Newcastle game, got to see a few mates, and yeah, all good. But yeah, want to defo talk all things Liverpool. So start off with your reaction to the first 20 games of the season for us. Did you expect in August we would be top of the league? Because I know I didn't.
No, definitely not. No, I think like most people, it's massively exceeded my expectations so far. I think I didn't. I remember, every year in this job, you kind of find yourself in the middle of August writing kind of scene setter previews to the season, and I remember thinking it's quite a tricky one to write last August because I think it felt like a bit of a step into the unknown, not really sure what to expect. I mean, it would. We always knew it was going to be a big summer, but not even Klopp knew it would be quite as kind of turbulent as it turned out to be with, obviously as well as the four guys whose contracts were up. You then had, the Saudi interest exploded out of nowhere really, and Liverpool didn't expect to lose Fabinho or Henderson. And then of course you had all those issues with trying to recruit a holding midfielder and the discussions for Lavia dragging on, and then the buzz of suddenly having that bid accepted for Caicedo and then getting gazumped by Chelsea. Um, and so yeah, it was a lot of it was kind of like how are these pieces going to fall into place? And also, I think when you have to almost rebuild an entire department of the squad, like he did with the midfield, you kind of think, well, common sense tells you that it's going to take some time to really gel. So yeah, it. I think like anyone, if anyone had said that by middle of January you'd be 90 minutes away from the Carabao Cup final, still in the FA Cup, last 16 of the Europa League, and 2 points clear at the top of the Premier League, you'd have most definitely taken that. So yeah, it's just a fantastic platform to kind of kick on for the second half of the season.
Yeah, I definitely would have put a bet on it if I had known in hindsight that we were top of the league. But and I don't think we've played particularly well either. I mean, there's been flashes of it. I thought we played really well against City and the Newcastle game, but apart from that, there hasn't been any really like standout matches for me.
Yeah, I think there's been lots of standout moments, hasn't there been, in terms of like the resilience that they've shown and the ability to turn games around. I mean, I think what is it, 7 times this season Liverpool have conceded the first goal and then come back to win games more than anyone else. And you look at the was it 30 goal involvements, 15 goals, 15 assists from substitutes, which shows you how much Klopp has been impacting matches. But yeah, I know what you mean in terms of the performance level. It's got a very different feel to it than, say, 29-20 when Liverpool won the Premier League, where they were just a machine, weren't they, in terms of like how ruthlessly efficient they were. And you kind of, when Liverpool went 1 or 2 nil up in games that season, you kind of thought, well, that's done and dusted. You can put your feet up and relax a bit, really. And in fact, it was only really the weight of history that kind of stopped everyone getting too carried away too early, because I think when you look back now, it was like, well, actually, that was done and dusted by Christmas. It was just no one really wanted to shout it from the rooftops because we'd been stung previously. So yeah, and I think that bodes well for the second half of the season. The fact that you don't look at Liverpool and think, well, how can they possibly maintain these standards? Because I actually look at it like you and think, I think they've actually got another couple of gears they could go through. And that is really, really exciting. And I think part of that ability, well, a big part of that ability to win games without being at your brilliant best is just the array of firepower that they've got. Because, that's the contrast between, say, Liverpool and Arsenal, and say, Arsenal can dominate big chunks of games and just not look like scoring, whilst Liverpool have got such a threat with, of course, Salah has been immense in terms of leading the way goals wise this season. But when you think there isn't another club around that's got five forwards of the caliber of the ones that Klopp has been able to play with this season, and I think he's rotated his squad, really intelligently as well.
Hmm. I mean, obviously, there's been a lot of talk about Nunes and the chances he misses. But for me, he's making those chances, and that's what counts. I think the goals will go in for him. There's a lot of people kind of complain about him, but he's getting in these positions that I'm liking. And when he does come on, he just creates so much chaos, and it's a joy to watch because he is a bit mad when he comes on. You don't know which Nunes you'll get. But I think, once he's fine-tuned, those goals will start going in.
Yeah, yeah, I don't worry about Nunes. I know he divides opinion amongst some Liverpool fans. I know more in general. I think a lot of the kind of the criticism that he gets tend to be from people that actually probably don't watch Liverpool that closely regularly and maybe only see snippets and highlights of missed chances. And I think if that's what you go on, then you just wouldn't appreciate the job he does for the team. And I think you can't get away from the fact that, of course, he should have scored more goals this season. You only have to look at the metrics with expected goals and chances and everything else, and he will know that better than anyone. That he's shown that he's capable of the spectacular, like the quality of the goal down at Bournemouth in the League Cup. You think of the first time finish at Burnley. Yeah, we can all rattle off probably four or five sitters that you left scratching your head, thinking, well, how can you do that, but then not do something that looks so routine? But that would be a worry for me if he wasn't contributing in other elements of his game. But the reality is he looks a hell of a lot more in tune with the players around him now than he did last season. I think there were times last season when I watched him play and thought he just looked like he wasn't really kind of in sync with the other players, and obviously you'd see Klopp bellowing at him from the touchline in terms of his work off the ball. And Klopp obviously talked, didn't he, about counter pressing has that's the ticket into this team. And I think that was something that clearly Nunes had to take on board. And that side of his game has improved massively. And what has he got? 10 assists now in all competitions, more than anyone else in the squad. So, and I know I wrote a piece recently for The Athletic saying, you just can't judge Darwin Nunes on goals alone. It's not fair when you look at what else he's contributing with. And yeah, I certainly would stick by that.
Yeah, I just noticed like he's just more. You saw him in like the Christmas video with Gakpo and Curtis, and you can tell there's a bond between all three of them, and I think that's helped him settle down as well. And he's learning English more, to communicate more. I just think he'll kick on this second half of the season, and with the re-emergence of Jota after being injured. I think that'll help us. January, it's a tough month after coming through the holiday period. I think we've done really well. Now with Mo and Endo going, that's another kick in the old midsection for us. But we've had players step up. I mean, Gomez to me has his versatility has just blown me away. He just like any other player, they need confidence and game time, just like you see with Curtis as well. I'm sure the last 15 games of the season, Jones, I thought, was fantastic last season. And I don't think we'd be where we are, as a squad, without him contributing. But Gomez, for me, this season has been the unsung hero.
Yeah, yeah, I'd go along with that. He's been a brilliant servant to Liverpool, Joe Gomez, and I think the fact that he only recently brought up 200 appearances for the club kind of it kind of tells you how stop-start his career has been at Liverpool, because of course he's the only player left who kind of predates Klopp's arrival. And yeah, he's had, was it three, I think, really serious injuries along the way, and there's been other points where he's been fit but has been overlooked and has been down the pecking order, and there's been transfer windows where I've thought, maybe this is probably going to be the time when there's a parting of the ways. But I think there's been a good reason why Liverpool have never ever sought to move him on, because they love having him around the place, and he's, as you said, incredibly versatile. Right back, centre back, left back. He's a great athlete. He's also, the ultimate professional in terms of, he's, I don't think there's such a low maintenance footballer as Joe Gomez, in terms of never moans, just gets on with it. You're guaranteed 100% out of him day after day. And it's been brilliant to see him get a regular run in the team, and how much, I think, because I remember doing an interview with him a couple of years ago, and he said he just found it really hard when he was in and out, when he was just filling in, because he said you just don't build rhythm. He said, and then you might play, and then you don't, you might find yourself, I haven't played for a month, and you're suddenly being thrown into like a real high tempo intensity Premier League game. So yeah, it's been great to see him get a run and step up and ensure that Liverpool have managed to keep the momentum going in the absence of Robertson and Tsimikas. And also it'd be good to see him get some wider credit as well, because as you said, he is a bit of an unsung hero. And it's been good to see him kind of get that wider appreciation. I think, like most people, I would just dearly love to see him between now and the end of the season get that first goal for Liverpool, because I actually asked him recently whether he had a celebration lined up, and he said he didn't, and he wasn't sure what he would do when if and when the moment comes. But yeah, it does feel like a Joe Gomez goal isn't too far away, because yeah, he is getting into some really good areas.
Yeah, I just with the injury list we have, it's so funny. We, especially yourself, you're in sport, you listen to it every day, you read about it. You read how Spurs injury list, Man United injury list, and then you've got us. Nobody really talks about the Liverpool injury list. And before October, November, doing really well, and then Robbo, and then Simicas and Jota, bam, 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 all happened. And then I think, there was that big question, who's going to fill in where? And then obviously Trent gets injured. So the emergence of Gomez at left back and Conor Bradley at right back. I'm not shocked by Conor Bradley, the way he plays. It's fearless. When you have a manager like Klopp put his arm around you and say, just go out there and do your best. What's your thoughts on Conor Bradley coming into play?
Yeah, I thought he was brilliant against Fulham in the first leg of the Carabao Cup semi-final. I think we would have seen more of him this season, but for that back injury that he suffered in pre-season, because going back to the summer, the coaching staff were really, really kind of excited about his potential, and of course he was coming off the back of a brilliant season on loan at Bolton, which had really helped his development. So yeah, it was great to see him, because I think, yes, of course he's had a taste of it previously in the first team at Liverpool, but that felt like a real big step forward for him to be trusted with like a League Cup semi-final at Anfield, full house. And I thought he was great at both ends of the pitch as well. He's not Trent Alexander-Arnold. No one is. That's the thing. You've got to be realistic in terms of Liverpool can't play the same way without Trent, because nobody else has got his skill set. Probably not in world football, let alone in Klopp's squad. So it did mean a little bit of a reshuffle. But yeah, I thought Bradley was solid defensively. Offered a fair bit going forward as well. So again, it's been a feature of the season, hasn't it? I think you're right in terms of Liverpool's injuries, and the extent of them has barely got a mention in the wider footballing conversation when it comes to Mainly because Klopp just, he hasn't really, he's not one to go in for excuses. He always talks about looking for solutions rather than excuses. And and that's why I think it's hardly got a mention, because it's not as if Liverpool have really suffered as a result of those players being out, because time and time again, we've seen people step up from the fringes of the squad and deliver. I mean, it's, if you go back to August, if you said, can you imagine, but getting to like, what is it, mid January, and Thiago hadn't even pulled on a Liverpool shirt yet. And, Basetic obviously has had a pretty torrid time with it as well, and losing Matip for the season. And, usually, after Liverpool lost Matip for the season, you thought to yourself, well, they have to go and buy a centre back in January. Like, that seemed like the common sense approach. Yeah, of course, Kwanzaa has done so well in every game that he's played that you think, well, actually, yeah, I can see the logic. This isn't, it's different to say, what is it, coming up to 3 years ago when it was like you were sat here with pretty much every senior Liverpool centre back being out injured. And it was like, what are Liverpool doing? Why are they not buying? And they end up obviously panicking and bringing in Ozan Kabak on loan and Ben Davis from Preston. I think this time around, you look at it and you go, well, actually, yeah, that, of course, in an ideal world, you'd bring in Matip's replacement now, but, you kind of trust the people that are making these decisions who, if they can't get who they want this month, they'll sit tight to the summer, which is what they essentially showed with, when they waited until the summer to bring in Kanate.
And talking of injuries, any news on any players coming back soon?
Yeah, pretty positive news really. With I mean, Robertson's obviously spent the last week over in Dubai, warm weather training and stepping that up. So I think he's just waiting for the green light now, to be able to resume contact training. That was always going to be the big thing. Is the bone completely fully healed in his shoulder? The joint, everything up to it in terms of being able to resume full training. So he is, the last I heard, he was on course to be full training again before the end of the month, and Tsimikas won't be far behind him. Tsimikas is kind of a fair bit ahead of schedule, because I think when he broke his collarbone initially, the talk was, well, back end of February, probably before we saw him back. So good news with that. Szoboszlai again has been out running on the pitch. I think he should have a chance of being back around for that trip to Bournemouth on Sunday. Should know more on that later on in the week. And then Thiago and Basetic, Pep Lijnders said last week it'll be sometime in February when they rejoin the squad. So yeah, things certainly looking a lot better than they were.
I think the biggest one on everyone's lips is probably Trent. I know he's been in Milan and he's been modelling, but that he's still not playing. Is there any news on Trent?
Well, 3 weeks was the time scale that Liverpool were given, when he picked up that small tear in a ligament down at Arsenal in the FA Cup. So the target, which, and I haven't heard anything to the contrary at the moment, was the Chelsea home game at the very back end of January. And I think if that proves to be too soon, then he should be back for the next trip to the Emirates, which I think is the following weekend. Liverpool go to the Emirates in the Premier League. So yeah, it's only a minor one, thankfully. And I think, of all the times you could lose Trent for 3 weeks, it's not the worst. I think timing wise, it could have been a lot worse, especially when you look at, the 11-day gap between games with this mini winter break, and also, the fixtures as well, because, you'd like to think Liverpool could go to Bournemouth and win without him. Of course, they go to Fulham for the second leg as well of that Carabao Cup game. So yeah, all being well, we should see Trent back in a Liverpool shirt either very end of January or early February.
Yeah, that's a massive bonus. I just think if we can get through January and then we get, Endo, Mo, Trent, and even see Thiago mid-February will give everyone a lift. I just think these next couple of weeks are massive for us. You see the resurgence of City. Kevin De Bruyne is back. You see his 20-minute cameo the other night. He hasn't lost any of his decision making or his passing ability. I've always thought that it's not Arsenal, it's City who are going to run us all the way to the end of the season, because as we've seen with Arsenal, they've kind of faded off a little bit, and it's just us and City again, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's certainly shaping up to be, it will become, I think, a two-horse race in the coming weeks and months. I think we've seen from Arsenal of late that and of course it hasn't. It's yet to be yet to be seen whether they will address it in this transfer window, but they do lack goals, and that has cost them in a number of games, not least against Liverpool in that FA Cup tie when they were so dominant in the first half, and Villa as well as they've done. I don't see them being able to sustain it. So yeah, I think of course, with everything that City have done in recent years, and as you said, De Bruyne coming back, they got Haaland to come back as well. I'd be absolutely amazed if they didn't come on really strong in the second half of the season. But I don't know. I'm pretty optimistic because I look at it, and as we talked about earlier, I still think Liverpool have got gears that they can go through, and City have still got to come to Anfield. That's the other thing. So it's a two point cushion at the moment. But that's another little bit of the dynamic in Liverpool's favour. The fact that City have got to come to Anfield during this period when it looks like it's going to be another real thrilling title race between these two.
Yeah, it'll be squeaky bum time for the next 18 matches, but we're in it for life, aren't we? So all we have to do is just sit back and enjoy it, and hopefully Liverpool come May lift out a number 20 trophy.
Yeah, that's what we all hope. Yeah, I think there's no reason why they can't do it, and I think also when you speak to players and staff who, of course, were involved in the previous title win, I think that as special as that was to end that 30-year wait, there was also a bit of a nagging sense of it wasn't supposed to be like this because of the pandemic and being denied the opportunity to share that moment properly with the supporters, and of course they tried to still make it as special as possible, but it wasn't the same. I was one of the lucky few that was inside Anfield when Jordan Henderson lifted the trophy that night, and having thought many times over those 3 decades, I wonder what it's going to be like when the day finally comes. You never thought it would happen in a pretty much you know empty Anfield, if you like. So yeah, I think that's a real driver for those that have done it before to actually be able to experience everything that would go with winning the title with Liverpool. And I think also, that for me, the Carabao Cup is really important because I think for this, what is essentially a new group with the signings that Klopp has made, combined with the emergence of these young players. I think that would be a big thing if they can win the Carabao Cup, that first piece of silverware as a unit together. I think there's no reason why they can't kick on and win. Who knows, two or three. The dream is obviously all four because I think sometimes there's a bit of revisionism when people talk about the quadruple challenge in 21-22 because I sometimes read that Liverpool ran out of gas and they were shattered, and of course when you play 63 games it's a proper marathon, but let's not forget that if Villa hadn't fallen to pieces in the last 10 minutes of the Etihad, and if Thibaut Courtois had the game of his life in Paris, Liverpool would have won the lot. That had nothing to do with Liverpool's energy levels. So yeah, I only see it as a good thing the longer that Liverpool can stay in the domestic cups.
Spot on as usual. Again, I really appreciate you coming on, spending, some time with me and chatting about Liverpool and stuff. But yeah, anything you've got coming up?
Yeah, do you know what? Been a bit of a busy period at the moment. So I've obviously I'm down to Bournemouth for the game this weekend. So looking forward to seeing the Reds back in action. I recently spent some time over in Hungary as well with Dominic Szoboszlai's dad. So I'm looking forward to writing up and publishing that in the coming weeks on The Athletic. Went to Szoboszlai's old school as well and met some of his school teachers that are incredibly proud of him, and they're all now honorary Liverpool fans as well. So yeah, it's been a relatively quiet spell, obviously with the Reds having their feet up and a well-earned break, but yeah, it's going to be non-stop again come the weekend because there's that Wembley spot to secure as well. I'll be on the way down to London for that trip to Craven Cottage next midweek as well. So yeah, just really excited about what this Liverpool team could achieve in the coming months.
Yeah, me too. Well, thank you again, James. Everyone, please like and subscribe, put your notifications on, and we'll see you next time.